Welcome back to the Pique Your Interest podcast, the podcast where we seek to demystify all things real estate and mortgage related. I am one of your hosts. I'm a loan officer here at the Millersville branch of First Home. My name is Tim Malauskas.
My name is Tanner Greenwald, and I'm part of the Greenwald team at our Millersville branch here.
On to today's topic. Today we're going to talk about home safety, things that you can do to your home after you purchase to keep you safe. And to start that, I'm going to let Tanner take it away.
Yeah, so I think one of the obvious things to do is once you get the keys at settlement, it's probably important to change your locks.
Yeah, number one, for sure.
Yeah, to the front door, to the back door, to the basement if you have entry point in the basement.
Change the garage code.
Yeah, exactly. Some people don't think to do, some people think to change the lock itself on the door and fine, okay, great, but there's other things I think that go with that, which if you want to be super safe, I would suggest completely taking out the screws that you see in the door frame and reinstalling longer screws, thicker screws, whatever, because a lock is only so safe, I think, at home, unless you've got the equipment to back it up kind of thing. Yep. So changing the locks is super important in my opinion, and I think other people's opinions as well.
Absolutely it is.
But the fact that you mentioned garage, that's a good point as well. So a couple things on the garage, like Tim had mentioned, the code, make sure that gets changed up to whatever, you want to change it to. I would suggest not changing it to something like your home address number or, someone's birthday, or try to keep it something that, is personal to you that not many people know of kind of thing.
And not 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right? Yeah. We all have the 1, 2, 3, 4. Another thing with your garage as well, kind of think about the garage door type that you have when, you're moving in. So if you've got a garage door that doesn't have any type of windows at the top, those are probably more preferred for safety, because if you think about it, you have someone that's breaking into your home, the first access point of those windows, and it's not hard to break them. They can go in through the little window, pull your garage door opener and get on in there. So you want to make sure that you're safe in that aspect. So I think changing the locks and checking your garage area kind of thing, that's super important. What about security systems, Tim? What do you think about those?
Yeah, I like the idea of having a security system. I think that, ring cameras, for instance, have become really popular recently. There's obviously lots of brands out there that you can do that with. But yeah, installing something that allows you to see what's going on at your home, whether it's, a camera above the door or a doorbell camera or something like that. But I wouldn't just limit it to the front door. Also have it at the back door, basement entryways, again, garage. Just make sure that any kind of entry that you have, there's some kind of way that you can monitor what's going on there just to keep that safe. I do know that in some jurisdictions, districts, counties, whatever you want to call it, across the country, you're supposed to register these things with the authorities. So just be conscious of that, know where you are and what you need to be doing. You could do it yourself, or you could hire somebody to do it. I mean, I think that this is something that's really important. It's a security system to keep you and your family safe. So if it's not something that you think is in your scope of knowledge, then don't do it and pay someone else to do it. I mean, there are certain things that you probably should pay for in life, and this seems to be one of those things. I think I'm a pretty handy guy, but I don't know if I would install a security system. I think I would trust
save the DIYs for another time. Yeah, for sure.
DIYs like a bathroom project or something,
not for your security system.
Yeah, something that's not as secure as that. And the final thing I can think of is, if we're talking about keeping things safe, like keeping belongings safe, make sure that you have some kind of safe for that, like a fireproof safe. Yeah. We have a fireproof safe. We keep our social security cards, the deed to our house, which, it's all electronic, so I don't really know if we need that anymore. Passports, things like that. So really important documents go in this fireproof safe. And if, God forbid, our house ever burns down, we still have these things with us. And, speaking of which, the fires do happen. You have homeowners insurance for a reason, and, acts of God happen in nature and stuff like that. So there are certainly some things that you should be doing to protect yourself from fire and electrical issues. And I'll let Tanner go into that a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. So typically, when you purchase a home, you don't have to have an inspection done. But if you do have one done, the inspector's going in and they're checking the not fire extinguishers. They're checking
smoke detectors. Carbon monoxide detectors.
Yes, they're checking those things to make sure they're working properly, if you have them, kind of thing. If you don't have a home inspection, then you kind of forego the opportunity to know those things. Either way, when you move in, I would be making sure to checking those again. I would make sure that they work, the batteries are in there, they're turning on, they're not beeping at you kind of thing. And in a lot of places, it's kind of mandatory to have those working in your house.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so that's super important. Having a fire escape plan and also practicing it. So when I think about that, I think about back in school when, the bell rang and we all had to go outside and we had a plan set and we had a meeting point and all that stuff. That's pretty much what it would be like if you had a fire escape plan at your house. I think the most important things are to just kind of have a plan for each room, maybe not each room, each level, make sure there's 2 exit points, whether it's a window, a door, a back door. Have some type of like meeting point, I would say, for the family, whether it's outside, out back, down the street, whatever. Have a plan in place, I would think.
I haven't had a fire drill in like 30 years. That might be kind of fun to do.
Yeah, so I think you should get that going with your family just to make sure you have that.
Maybe we should do that here at the office too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But with that being said, fire extinguishers. I would suggest to have one on each level, hidden in a closet or something, or maybe under, your kitchen sink or whatever. Having them is super important. I have 2 in my house and I know exactly where they are. So that's a good idea to have, is a fire extinguisher, probably on each level, if I'm being honest. Checking and updating electrical wiring. So this is your outlets and your switches and stuff like that. I would go around and just make sure that not only they're working, but they look okay too. So if you're looking at an outlet and you're like, okay, the outlet's like browning a little bit, what's up with that? So just, keep an eye out on that stuff because that's important. And with that being said, surge protectors, those are super important as well. GFCI outlets in wet areas. So that's really important because you don't want to start a fire in your house, And then generators. So if you don't have a generator at your home, that's fine, but if the power does go out or you happen to just need extra powering in your life, get a generator. Yeah. Typically they go on sale depending on the season where you get them kind of thing, but they're super important, I think, to have. Do you have a generator?
I do, but I've never had to use it.
Yeah, I don't have
nice.
one. I don't have one, so I need to get on this task of getting a generator because I think that would be important.
And now that I've said I've never used it, I'm going to need it. The next time it rains, the power is going to go out, and I'm going to need that generator.
Well, thank God we have this, So the whole fire and electrical safety, that's very important in the household as well. But other important things are your children and your pets. Tim, why?
So as adults, we are tasked with taking care of children and animals that can't take care of themselves. And so one of the things that we can do is, install things like safety gates and outlet covers and cabinet covers to keep these people and these animals from getting into hazardous things. You want to keep things like anything that's potentially poisonous or just, would make you really sick, out of reach or behind a locked door or a cabinet so that it's harder to get to. A lot of houses now, I feel like I've had a lot of conversations lately with people about pools. Yeah. And I think pools are another one that you've got to look out for. You want to have a fence around it, or you want to have it secluded in some way that it's not just easy for a child to walk into a pool or a pet to go into the pool. So whether it's having a gate or a fence or having a really good strong cover that's going to protect the pool and the people from going into the pool or the pets going into the pool. And the other thing I can think of is, we're people. We know what our digestive systems are and what to eat, what not to eat. But a lot of times pets don't, particularly like dogs. Yep. There are a lot of poisonous plants out there that dogs can't eat. Unless you want to make an emergency trip to the vet or something like that. And I don't think anybody does. Nope. But you want to stay away from things like ivy and hydrangeas and tulips. And I think, just being conscious of what is around your house. And also as you're walking the dog around the neighborhood or going to a dog park, you want to make sure that you're not passing some of these things or that you're conscious of those things being there. So you're not letting your dog just sort of like hang out in the ivy for a little while and, come back and get sick a few hours later. Yeah. So protecting the people and the animals that we love is something that's important. And so if you're going to be buying a house and you have, little kids or you have pets, just please make sure that you are taking the necessary precautions to keep them safe because, we as adults know better. They don't. And so it's incumbent upon us to take care of them. Yeah. So as you're out walking around your neighborhood, there are a lot of things that you could be on the lookout for. as far as safety concerns. And Tanner, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I think first thing first, getting to know your neighbors as you're moving in is a good idea, just as a resource if anything ever happens or you need anything kind of thing, but also to be friendly. It's nice to have some neighbors on your side kind of thing. So I would definitely recommend, getting to know the neighbors. And then, if there isn't already one in place, I think having some type of maybe neighborhood watch going on, or not even neighborhood watch, but just like a neighborhood grouping where y'all meet and say, hey, what's working in the neighborhood right now? What's not? How can we make it better? Are there any issues? What did you guys notice? Things like that. So I think having some type of neighborhood watch would be kind of cool, or congregation.
Absolutely, it would.
I mean, it could just be like having a fire pit out, in your cul-de-sac with your neighbors and just getting to know them more.
That's exactly what I would do.
I was going to say, that sounds so fun. I would also say, getting informed on the apps and websites that are local to your community are pretty important. So I'm a part of a couple different Facebook groups. Even I'm a part of my community Facebook group, my county Facebook group. Facebook is a huge tool.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good resource if you need it. And it's a quick way that usually if there's an issue going on in the neighborhood, people jump right on social media and they let everybody know what's going on. Yeah. So I think joining one of those would be super helpful. There are some type of outdoor safety tips that I think that Tim should talk about.
Yeah. So if you're talking about the outside of your house, we've talked about things like installing cameras and, stuff like that. And I think you can even take it a step further. You can have, lighting, like spotlighting or adequate lighting in certain areas that might be darker or, behind a tree or something like that. I've seen a lot of, one of the projects that Christine wants me to work on is having, those lights that are in the ground but point toward your front door. So it sort of illuminates your front door at nighttime.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice look. I think that's really safe. And I think that's a pretty easy thing to do. So we'll work on that.
Yeah.
But also things like, having a fence or a gate or some sort of outdoor storage area. If you've got these things, you want to have an outdoor storage area illuminated. You want to make sure that people know that you've got it illuminated and that it's not a secret. But yeah, fences and gates keep you a little bit safer. Just, if you're not as easy to access, you probably deter some of the criminal element. And then landscaping. There are things that you can do with landscaping around your house that help you feel more secure and make your house a little more secure. So doing things like thorny plants by windows, that'll probably keep somebody from climbing in. It makes me think about the Home Alone, the original Home Alone, with the burglars trying to break into the house.
Yeah.
You could do some things to deter people, and I think that's one of the things that you could do. So lots of bright lights, anything you can do to sort of impede somebody from even thinking about coming to break into your house or something like that. You want to make sure that that's taking all the steps that you can to do that. And then I think not just safety from other people, but just safety in general from natural disasters and things like that. You should be prepared for things like, an earthquake or a severe power outage or something like that. And so, there are certain steps that you should be taking. So what are some of those steps? So
I think first and foremost, having some type of emergency kit or emergency bin or something somewhere in a closet towed away where you know where it is again, is super important. And honestly, side note, I have this going on in my car as well. So, because you never know where you're going to be stranded in a car. But back to the house situation. So, having things like a flashlight, batteries, water, like a case of water, some non-perishable foods, blankets, pillows. And again, all this stuff can be kind of shoved into a container sort of thing. Yeah. But again, knowing where it is super important so that if you ever get yourself into a situation or there is a natural disaster, you know where to go to and you know what's in there kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you can always add stuff in there as you go. But that's super important. Having some type of list of emergency contacts, family members, friends, neighbors, those are super important. And that's something that you can even keep in your safe, like Tim mentioned earlier. You don't have to, but you can keep them with your little emergency kit as well. But I think that's important to have as well. Knowing how to shut off your utilities. So I think of wintertime, this is just engraved in my head because this almost happened to me. Shutting off, your water valve and stuff like that. So you end up not having any type of flooding in the wintertime. I think that's super important. That almost happened to me. Yeah, but securing things outdoor, if there's some type of really windy day, which we do have around here in Maryland, if you've got chairs and stuff outside, either put them away or secure them, so they're not flying all over the place and can smack something around and mess up your backyard or whatnot, but things like that. Those are things to look out for when there's type of natural disasters coming, or you are looking to have some type of emergency kit in your house kind of thing. With that being said, there are a couple things that are not so like safety related, but it's helpful to do these things if you just purchase a home. So why don't you talk about those types of things?
Yeah, I think some of it is a little safety related, though. It's like the safety of your information, like your personal information. And so I think that's why the reason we're including this part in it is because it has something to do with like keeping your privacy safe or your information safe. And that's updating information once you move. So, letting the post office know that you moved so you can get your mail, letting your bank know that you've moved, any of the creditors that you have, any debts that you have, subscriptions that you have, various insurance policies, cell phones, stuff like that. You want to make sure that if you are the kind of person that still gets paper bills, I know a lot of people switched to electric a long time ago, but if you're the kind of person that gets bills in the mail and that's how you pay your bills, you want to make sure that you are letting those creditors know that you've moved so that they can then get you the bills and you can pay them on time. Yeah. You want to make sure that you switch utilities over to your name. I mean, that's not really a safety thing, but I think that's something that a lot of people don't think about. It's something that I cover in my pre-closing phone call with people. I have just a checklist of things that you should be doing before you go to settlement, or at least getting in place, set the wheels in motion kind of thing. And then just insurance, you want to make sure that you've got sufficient insurance. By the time you buy a house, you've talked to an insurance person in theory. Yep. Hopefully you've talked about the nuances of your house and you've talked about things like, sewer backup and age of the roof and things like that. But that's a good conversation to have annually. I have a conversation with my insurance guy every year. Mm-hmm. We talk about what's covered, what's not covered, what should we add, what should we take away, what makes sense. And I think updating the coverage along the way to meet wherever you are in life is something that's really important to do. I think that, the better prepared you are up front, the easier it is to handle things. And so, if a natural disaster happens or a burglary happens or a fire happens, all of these things are in place. You know where the important things are. You know that you're covered. And, we've talked a lot about the psychological part of home ownership, and it's a good feeling knowing that you're taken care of and that things are as good as they can be, like as prepared as you possibly can be in case something goes wrong.
I want to add to that too. Sometimes when people are buying homes or buying a home or whatever, they have no idea that they can change their coverage after they settle on the home. Like they think whatever coverage that they pick, that's it for like the life of their whole life. That's not the case. After you settle, you can call your insurance agent, have a conversation, and they can maybe give you ideas about what you should be adding that might be safety related for you for your home type of thing. So just kind of a sidebar for that. Yeah, you can definitely change your coverage.
Yeah, absolutely. Because things will change in your life. Like you might decide to get a pool or, you add another car to the family because your kids are of driving age. So these are conversations that should be ongoing. It's not like a static thing that never changes. It should be something that evolves over time.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is all super important information, I think, especially if you just purchased a house, Yeah, a lot's going on. You've got a lot of, anxieties even after you purchase. So it's like even thinking about the very standard things, I think sometimes, float out of people's minds. So we're just giving a reminder of safety stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good reminder. I think when you're buying a house, I can see how it's easy to be overwhelmed by all the things that you have going on and letting something like changing the locks sort of slip your mind or just little things like that really aren't so little.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder for everybody.
Yeah, I agree.
So this entire episode was Tanner's brainchild. So thanks Tanner for all your hard work on it. I appreciate it.
No problem at all.
All right.
No problem at all.
All right. Well, that was a good episode, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
All right, bye.